I do want to pursue this a little bit in terms of your response to the chairman's question in terms of the adequacy of the force. But I want to first mention your activity in Africa, which really surprised me. I can remember when we first brought AFRICOM along, and we started paying attention to what's going over there, the potential threats that are there, the terrorism that is infiltrating the countries. And so I know you've been active over there, and I've talked to a lot of the African leaders, very complimentary on some of the results that we're getting. But and this surprises me because AFRICOM didn't even come online until the 1st of 2008. And yet, if you go back to 2006, the deployments to Africa have increased by more than 1,600%, went from 1% to 17% in terms of deployments outside the United States. That's huge. That's a lot of increase in activity. And in addition to combating terrorism and expanding the network of violent extremism organizations, General Thomas, what impact, what can you elaborate on your activities in Africa? It's a disordinate increase in terms of percentage when you realize that some 17% of all the deployments are actually affecting Africa.
Senator, I would actually attribute that to our adversaries' activities. The migration of ISIS and al-Qaeda to Africa, to ungoverned spaces over the preceding decade has been palpable. You know the specific locations. I probably in an open session should not get into the details of where and what, but we've endeavored to move where they have tried to establish new provinces, new areas of influence in support of General Waldhauser and AFRICOM. So that transition over time has really been driven by adversarial action, but I think the good news is that we've had the ability to move to those locations and attempt to defeat and disrupt them, where they try to reside.
I don't think anyone anticipated back in 2008 or even the years since then that the activity would increase as it has there. So I'm interested in following through with that. Now, on this, the idea of what you guys are in a position to handle right now, most of the deployed SOCOM forces, 55% went to the Middle East. Next was Africa, that was 17%, then Europe 13% and 9%. Now, when you look at the op-tempo that was involved over there, in your written testimony, you acknowledge that adversary powers are increasingly turning toward unconventional warfare and to pursue their objectives. But maybe I misunderstood you when you responded to the question of the chairman, that you were adequately staffed to carry on these functions. Is that not an accurate recollection I'm having?
Senator, we are adequately staffed to maintain the current tempo, the current distribution of Special Operations Forces. It is a strain. It's certainly not an easy burden, but we're adequately resourced.
I'm looking for the quote that we had. Yeah, this would have been from the House committee yesterday. You said, well, I can't find it right now, but there are quotes there. Here it is right here. It said, most Special Operations Forces units are employed to their sustainable limit. Now, to me, that seems a little inconsistent with being adequately staffed. And you went on to talk about as or more challenged is a conventional force by the problem of suicide, other problems in the ranks that come with what I consider to be overdeployed. What are some of the problems that you're facing that give you the indication that maybe you're not adequately staffed?
Senator, again, we can sustain the current rate of deployment. It's something we scrutinize every day. You mentioned, the chairman mentioned early on, that there is a large demand signal from our geographic combat commanders to do the things they have to do. As a service, one of our roles, we aim to meet their requirements. As a global combatant command, we also attempt to synchronize special operations activity to the greatest efficacy possible. I think we're doing that to the degree we can. There are challenges on the force. You mentioned certainly some of the more dire symptoms, and we address them directly every day. That's a large focal point for us. I'd have to thank all of you as well for providing us the tools that we didn't have a decade ago to build in resiliency for our force in terms of our preservation of the force and family, and also for our ability to care for our warriors in the event of mishaps, injuries, et cetera. We didn't have that capability. You've helped us gain it over time, and that's a critical part of how we sustain ourselves.
Well, as one member of this committee, I look at some of the results, some of the problems that you have, and I have to question as to whether or not it is adequately staffed. One short question, I know my time has expired, but you can do this for the record if you'd like, Ms. Whelan. There's some confusion, as I mentioned to you earlier, in the words that you use when you're talking about adversary powers increasing, turning toward the unconventional warfare. You said, quote, exquisite integration across multiple components of not only the Defense Department, but also the United States government as a key challenge to confronting growing threat. You might, for the record, since my time has expired, elaborate a little bit on that. Would you do that?
Yes, Senator, we'd be happy to.
Thank you.